everyone to a very special episode of HR and Payroll 2.0. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks so much. And I think we've been calling these quick takes, right? When something really meaningful happens, and if we can, the same morning, we're doing our best to get out and get in front of it.
Yeah. We woke up this morning to some hot news, breaking news.
Real hot. So let's dig in.
Yeah. Well, look, Deel is at it again, right? They've acquired what will be the global payroll half of Safeguard Global. So lots to talk about here. Some market implications
here.
And something in it for both sides. I think there's some very sort of not so surprising stuff here, but some that is surprising. So thought we could break that down, give our opinion, our point of view, and just cover the bases here. So.
All right. Are you going to lead us? Are you going to lead the charge?
Yep. Let's do it. So basically what's happened here is Deel has once again made an acquisition. I think this would make it their third in the global payroll space. Pay Group, Pay Asia being first back several years ago. A few years ago. And then more recently Pay Space. And then now Safeguard Global. And just to clarify, this means that this is actually just the global payroll portion of Safeguard Global is going to Deel. The GEO, or the global employment outsourcing, the EOR model will remain Safeguard Global and remain under that brand. So what's coming along is really the business for global payroll. So not surprising here.
Yeah. And, before we leave the part that's not going over, I think that part is, maybe as much as 70% of what's there, right? With the EOR and the remaining business. And in case folks didn't know, that also has like some staff leasing and some of the things that go along with any good EOR with the recruiting and bringing in and onboarding folks that are going to work on your behalf.
Yeah. There's not a lot of numbers here in this release, right? They didn't really give the deal specifics, which isn't uncommon in a private acquisition like this. But look, I think what you have here is Deel is boosting and bolstering its global payroll capability. And what's really cool here, I think, for Deel is they go deeper into the Workday ecosystem now, given
that's right.
That,
that's a big one.
That Safeguard Global was such a long time global payroll partner for Workday and EOR. But more importantly, one of that original co-innovator cohorts in the GPC Global Payroll Connect group. So Deel was already a partner of Workday by way of the PaySpace acquisition. This just amplifies that and really throws gas on that. So, man, they become really a very formidable solution provider, global payroll and global employment solution provider right inside the Workday ecosystem. So, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I was just going to say what I like about that, besides the, really long-standing depth of the relationship with Workday that Safeguard brings, is also that, Safeguard, unlike Pay Asia or the Pay Group and the Pay Space bit, has more of a permeated global presence, right? So the two prior were really kind of grabs in a specific geography, and really Safeguard gave them, a breadth across all of the geographies, but also that really rich heritage with Workday that is going to be certainly incredibly valuable to them.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing here is I confirmed this with Safeguard. So there's actually no calc engines coming along with this. It would be delivery capability, obviously deep expertise with the platform, or, just global payroll in general. Deep integrations, obviously a very well built out Unity platform, which I think will be interesting to see what happens, right? With the Deel capabilities and now the Safeguard capabilities. But look, I think this is actually probably more of a localized, right, boots on the ground expertise sort of acquisition here. It's less about the tech, I think, for Deel, and more about the customers and the experience, right? The expertise that I think they bring in house, which just boosts their global footprint even further than it already was. So,
and as you said, there's not a lot of numbers available at this time. I'm sure that will be forthcoming. But just roughly, working with a global payroll space and global payroll business, if they were to tap into, let's say, 1,500 resources in that
Yeah.
are global payroll resources, that's a, that's an asset for sure to be
Yeah.
had. And I think, you could probably imagine them spanning a good 25 countries or so, right? And just like you said, get
Yeah.
that boots on the ground and give them a little bit of a boost there when it comes to people who know what the heck they're doing in the global payroll delivery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Safeguard was in every continent, right? They were expanding offices. I think some of the more recent ones were a little bit more in Asia Pac, some South
Yeah.
America, a little bit of Europe
Yeah.
here. But
Mexico a while ago, right? I
Mexico,
mean, they
yeah.
opened Mexico. That was a few
Yeah.
years ago now, probably, but that was a big ordeal, right? For them to put boots on the
Yeah.
ground in Mexico.
Well, they're headquartered in Texas, so that made perfect sense for sure. But yeah, look, it's bringing over about so look, Safeguard had about 1,600 plus people. About half of those people will come along with Unity, along with many of the leaders that have been running that side of the business for some time now. And it also brings about 2.4 million pay slips to the Deel fold. So
Yeah.
Deel's footprint just gets bigger. Their strength and their capabilities just got better. And yeah, I mean, powering right through, right? And I think this makes a lot of sense from the perspective of readying themselves for IPO, right?
Yeah.
They've been hungry to do that for a while. There's been no secret that they're planning that for either this year or next. I guess we'll see with the economy, things how things are going. But I think this is something that made sense from that perspective because look, you've got to be able to keep bringing in numbers and bringing those volumes up. So that makes total sense. But also think about the opportunity to cross sell into Safeguard. Deel has a lot more to offer just in terms of different services and niche things that
Mhm.
they've brought online. Some they've acquired, some they've just turned on, PEO, that sort of thing. So now you can sell that, right? Safeguard has this uh, rich audience of customers that have been with them for a very long time that can now play with the Deel solutions. And of course, obviously, 1 + 1 = 3, right? The two of these,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Safeguard, arguably a pioneer of both EOR and global payroll, I would argue. And now they're coming over to Deel, just bringing all that expertise and overlapping capabilities. I think it's going to be good for Deel in that way. Yeah, casting a wider net now.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah,
I think, if we're just looking at kind of the pattern, like you said, there's been two before now, the pattern of, how deals approach these things,
yeah,
they seem to kind of come in and bring things together. They want their acquired entities to kind of stay whole,
yeah,
and they want to kind of cherry pick through what the opportunities are. And there's going to be no lack of them, right?
yeah,
Places where Safeguard has had partners in country that now Pay Asia might that those
yeah,
capabilities fill that space. And so just rounding out the globe in some of these deals is a really cool opportunity to create some efficiencies without having to recreate the wheel or build something new, and that's
yeah.
always a challenge in payroll.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, if I had to guess, right, I think Safeguard was probably in the 200 million ish ARR. Now, obviously, they didn't release these numbers. So it brings over maybe, let's just assume it's half the business. I actually think Geo might be a little bit bigger.
I think
Um,
so too. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe let's just assume it's half. You figure it probably adds about 100 million ARR. Man, Deal is creeping up there into that billion, right? If they just announced 800, it's got to be pushing them a little bit closer. So I think that really makes them pretties them up, obviously
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
IPO and certainly makes the go to market strong, right? I mean, you think about look, one of the things that kind of bums me out is this was a rumor. I'll be honest with you. I feel like Safeguard. Obviously, I don't think there was a secret they were for sale. Um, my thinking was splitting the business. Wow. Part of them together was a big differentiator, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
only a few firms, Deel included, that could offer global payroll and global EOR. Niamo maybe being another one, remote. So, some others that are getting there. So I think this is interesting, right? I mean, obviously, it now gives the EOR model, the Geo model, to go off, business to go off and sort of build on its own. We'll see how that goes. But I thought the two played nicely together, and I'm curious to see how this might affect growth on either side. But obviously, Deel feels confident in what they're doing, and I think it fits very nicely with them. There's probably a lot of overlap with the EOR anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably wasn't a lot of appeal to that for them, other than maybe numbers. So the global payroll certainly makes sense when you think about where Deel's headed and what they're trying to build.
Yeah, well, I share
Yeah,
some of your curiosity. And for me, it's more, in some of our podcasts, even the EOR differentiation
yeah,
podcast, for me, there's the differentiation between what you're doing with EOR and what you're doing with global payroll is marked because they're two different audiences. Yes, some
Yeah.
of the same capabilities. So I'm a little anxious just to see at what point in time do some of these groups that are bringing those capabilities under one roof, do
Yeah.
they try to delineate either branding wise or marketing wise, according to what they're selling? Some is for
Yeah.
employees and some is not. And scaling up to 1,000 employees with complex needs is very different than, kind of the small low scale
Yeah.
business that makes an EOR successful. So how do
Yeah.
you balance those two things, and how do you go to market with those two things as you really start to create a business that
Yeah.
is global payroll within your own space?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. We'll see. Deal's got a lot to bring together, but they've been very successful so far, right? Folding these
Yeah.
things in and
Yeah.
making them work. And interestingly, they don't seem to rebrand, or I'm sorry, brand it to Deal. They kind of keep it Pay Space by Deal, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Pay Asia by Deal. So I'm curious if that'll remain here.
Yeah.
And one
Yeah.
thing I will tell you, Julie, I did find out that the safeguard global payroll element of the business that's going to Deal will still support paying the employees over at on the geo model over at Safeguard. So there is still a lot of synergies there,
Sure.
and in many
Sure.
ways they'll still be together as one, but not one, I guess, somewhat
Yeah.
separate, maybe
Yeah.
arm's length. So it'll be interesting to see here. But look, shout out to Bjorn Reynolds and team. I don't know if folks know this, but the first article I ever wrote on the EOR model was back in 2017 with Bjorn and team when I saw what was going on with Geo. Just coming from that PEO background, growing up, if you will, in my career, I saw the beauty of this and the value of the agility it can provide, and really got curious about it. It's what pushed me to create the first market analysis on this. And so congrats to Bjorn, congrats to the team. I think this is really, really cool. Exciting, right? Exciting for Safeguard now to go off and find a home that will hopefully nurture and continue to help
Yeah.
accelerate
Grow.
that. So
Grow.
shout out to
Yeah.
all the guardians.
That's right. Shout out to the Guardians, and also, for the EOR folks who have been kind of angry at so much activity with their 100 Deals umbrella. Well, here's another one. So,
Yeah.
let's see what kind of cool secret sauce they make out of bringing all
Yeah.
this stuff together. And it's certainly exciting. And congratulations to the whole leadership team, both of Deal and
Yeah.
Safeguard. Super exciting news to wake up to this morning.
Yeah, there's a great article out there by Andreessen Horowitz today or I don't know when it came out actually, just breaking down how Deal has successfully grown through M&A and through development, and just how fast they move. I think they really do epitomize the modern agile organization, and they're really living what they're selling if you think about it in a lot of ways. And I think this is just another testament to the mighty engine that they have
Yeah.
crafted, and they continue to keep their foot on the pedal. So, someone,
Yeah.
look, we've been calling for someone to step up and own this space. Maybe it's Deal, right? I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's someone else. And I think in a lot of ways, everyone's got their place, and there's plenty to go around. So we will
Yeah, and
see. We'll be keeping an
I
eye
can't
here.
help but think there's got to be
Yeah.
some longer term strategy coming together as they put all these pieces under one
Oh
umbrella,
yeah.
and start looking at the strength of Unity and other things that they've bought, and
Yeah.
figure out beyond some of the surface level synergies how are we going to get to some really marked things that are
Yeah.
either integrated or leverage the best of all worlds, right?
Yeah, yeah. And could this be the end? I mean, maybe again, steaming towards IPO. This could be there could be another sort of acquisition. Maybe we never know of adding to the numbers or adding to capabilities to make sure that they are completely well rounded. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on this one. But Julie, I got a question for you. So look, we always get this. I get asked this a lot anytime there's any of these acquisitions. What advice do you have, say, to buyers? I mean, obviously, Safeguard is saying, and Deal is saying as well, look, nothing changes. We'll
Yeah.
continue to service customers the same way. They'll now have more to pick from, more to choose, more to support them. But what, if anything, would you say to folks that are maybe in the pipeline for an RFP for global payroll,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
one or both of these is in play, or just someone who's maybe already there and thinking about what this means for them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think part of the obvious answer to that is there'd been some speculation for a while. There usually is, would somebody be up
Yeah.
on the block for sale or not for sale? And this answers some of those questions. So I always feel like this brings an element of stability. Yes, there's some transition activity that can be impactful to the business or even distracting. But truthfully, this is not Deal's first rodeo. They've
Yeah.
done a number of these. There's a history of the leadership team and employees staying largely intact. So I wouldn't probably, I wouldn't predict anything much different, at least immediately. And all of these things take time to sort their way through. So things that could impact which system we're on or what's being used. Usually there's a lot of under the behind the scenes
Yeah.
things that are going on that aren't client impactful externally until they really sort out and figure out what the game plan is for the long term. So I'd say stick tight,
Yeah.
hang tight. It's probably a good thing. You might catch more capabilities if you're in that shopping area than you thought were possible. That's always a bonus. And there is a generation of activity, I would say, just around short-term contracting needs, right?
Mm.
Where legal entities change. We do a lot of that. I've done a lot of that, just even with the Alight and Strata and Paychex Paycor. And so, if there's a tactical kind of a procurement angle to this that you need some help with, just give a shout out. It doesn't have to be an insurmountable thing. The businesses are healthy and they're just coming together for a much better play on growth and
Yeah.
excitement. So that would be my message to folks that have one, the other, or are shopping.
Yeah, yeah, and look, I mean, I always think it's positive, right? If someone is buying a business from another organization, they want to grow that or see the
Yeah,
potential in that. That's always a good sign. I mean, I think,
yeah,
and look for it to go to a home like Deal where there is an aggressive play on growth and just building on what they have. You couldn't find a better place to land, I don't think, right? Someone who's excited to have you and excited to
yeah.
help you go to the next level. So I think that's a positive thing. And look, it opens up the doors for Safeguard clients to tap into more services and more
Yeah.
solutions. So
Well,
that's
hey,
always a
and
good
like you
thing.
said, like Deal becomes not only a Workday,
Yeah.
premier partner in the space, but also taps into GPC and some of those leading
Right.
attributes that Safeguard has as a longstanding partner. So Deal gets some nice bonuses out of this whole
Yeah.
thing as well. I'm sure that was part of the appeal.
Yeah. Head of the GPC line for sure. Right.
Yeah,
The Global
yeah,
Payroll
move to the
Connect.
front.
Lots of questions about Global Payroll Connect, and I'm sure there's going to be more vendors, obviously, coming soon or eventually, right? But that really does thrust Deal into being one of the six now, right? Or at least
Yeah,
owning the pathway to one of the six.
yeah,
So yeah, very cool stuff for both sides, and yeah, no, we'll have to see what happens, right? I'm sure we'll be
that's
keeping an eye
right.
on this and all the other things going on in the market. I don't expect this will be our last conversation, our last market quick take. I'm certain we're going to see more, especially in EOR and payroll, and maybe even by Deal. You never know.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
we'll see what
Well, stay
happens.
tuned. We're getting
Yeah.
better at getting them out quick, right? So
Yes. Yes. Well,
here we
look.
go.
Thank you so much, Julie, and thank you so much for everyone.
That's
Stick
right.
around. We've got more coming. So good to have you guys join us.